I was traveling alone through the mountains of Japan when my GPS lost signal. The road became narrower and narrower until it turned into a dirt path. I almost turned back. Then I saw a village. Small wooden houses sat quietly between rice fields and forest. There were no cars, no convenience stores, no power lines I could clearly see. It felt strangely peaceful. An old man noticed my car and walked over. He smiled and asked where I came from. When I told him I was traveling, he laughed softly. "There's an empty house," he said. "You can stay there if you like." The air was fresh, the mountains were beautiful, and the village felt untouched by time. So I decided to stay for a few days. It felt like I had accidentally stepped into the past. The next morning, I walked around the village. Everyone seemed friendly, but something felt different. There were no young people. Most of the villagers were elderly. And when night came, the village became incredibly dark. Not just quiet, dark. People used lanterns instead of electric lights. Later that afternoon, an elderly man stopped me on the road. He looked toward the mountain behind the village. Then he said something that immediately caught my attention. "Don't go near that house." I followed his gaze. A small house stood alone halfway up the hill. "Why not?" I asked. The old man hesitated. Then he said quietly, "A sick man lives there." I asked what kind of sickness, but the man only shook his head. "Just stay away from that place." The warning made me curious. So over the next 2 days, I asked different villagers about the man on the hill. The answers were complicated. One farmer told me he used to be a normal young man, but then he lowered his voice. He started visiting women at night. People began talking. Later, an old woman told me something different. "That boy had a hard life," she said. "His parents died when he was young. His grandmother raised him." She looked toward the hill. "He wasn't a bad person." Another villager explained something even stranger. "In the old days," he said, "this village had certain customs." He hesitated before continuing. "Sometimes men would visit women at night." Then he leaned closer to me, but the young man became sick. The illness spread through rumors quickly. People whispered about it. The villagers grew distant. The women stopped seeing him. Eventually, nobody visited his house anymore. I asked the man, "So, the village abandoned him?" The villager thought for a moment. Then he said something I still remember. "We didn't abandon him." A long silence followed. People just stopped going near him. On my 3rd day in the village, curiosity finally got the better of me. I decided to walk toward the house on the hill. The path was narrow and overgrown, as if no one had used it in years. When I reached the house, the door was slightly open. Inside, the air felt cold and stale. The place looked abandoned. Dust covered the floor, and most of the furniture was gone. But on a small wooden table, I found something. A notebook. The pages were old and yellow. At first, I thought it was just a diary. But the more I read, the more disturbing it became. The writer talked about the village. About how people used to visit him. How the women stopped coming. How the villagers began whispering behind his back. One sentence stood out. "They look at me like I'm already dead." Another page said something even worse. "If they think I am already gone, then I will take them with me." A cold feeling ran through my body. That was when I noticed something strange. The village had become completely silent. A few minutes later, the lights went out. The entire village went dark. Not just my house. Everything. For a moment, I thought it was just a power outage. Then I remembered something. The villagers had told me they rarely used electricity. So why had the lights suddenly disappeared? Outside, the darkness felt heavy. Then I saw it. A small light moving in the distance. At first I thought it was a lantern, but it wasn't. The light was moving too fast. And it wasn't being carried in someone's hand. It was attached to someone's head. A man was walking down the road, a rifle in his hands. Then the first gunshot echoed through the valley. Someone screamed. Another shot followed. Then another. The light began moving from house to house, and everywhere it went, the screaming followed. That was when I understood something horrifying. The villagers hadn't been telling me a rumor. They had been telling me a memory. I ran. I didn't even stop to think. Gunshots continued behind me. and the light kept moving through the village. Closer and closer. I could hear footsteps somewhere in the darkness. Branches snapped behind me as I ran into the forest. The light appeared between the trees, searching, moving, getting closer. I kept running until the forest suddenly ended. And then, I saw something that made no sense. A paved road, streetlights, and cars passing in the distance. My phone suddenly vibrated in my pocket. The signal had returned. I turned back toward the forest. But the village was gone. Only dark mountains remained. A few days later, I started researching the area. That was when I found it. In 1938, a man in rural Japan carried out one of the worst mass killings in the country's history. His name was Mutsuo Toi. He killed dozens of people in a small mountain village. The event is now known as the Tsuyama Massacre. Some reports say he cut the power lines before the attack. Others say he wore a flashlight strapped to his head as he moved through the village in the dark. When I read those details, I felt a chill run down my spine. Because that was exactly what I saw that night. I thought I had simply visited a quiet village in the mountains. But now I'm not so sure. I think I may have walked into the past. And I think I witnessed the night it happened.